When I see the red dot, it's recording, right? Paul.
Yeah.
Who's that?
And we're back here.
All of us.
Just like on the home,
Everybody count up.
All right.
the home show or the pie.
Exactly. Everybody.
All right. The year is 1776. Our founding fathers just declared independence from Great Britain. What will this new country be like? What rights will the people be? What rights will the people have, and where will they come from? Welcome this Sunday Easter afternoon. The topic and purpose of my speech is to tell you a little bit about the history of the natural rights of the United States and where they came from. Today, if you were to ask anybody off the street what their rights were in the United States, they would be able to tell you right away what those were. The three main ones, at least. And with little to no deviation. But if you were to ask them where those rights came from, many of them would not be able to tell you. Okay, so during the American Revolution, our founders created the Declaration of Independence. And this was primarily written by Thomas Jefferson, but also others. And Thomas Jefferson remarked in a letter to Richard Price that he considered John Locke one of the greatest men that ever lived. And we can see this because he took many things Locke wrote verbatim and put them in the Declaration of Independence. There are other influences like William Blackstone and Frederick Bastiat, but John Locke was the main one. So what are natural rights? Well, here's a little quote by Locke, but to paraphrase it, natural rights exist because we exist. And because we exist, there are natural rights. Like any object exists, has natural laws that govern it, so do we. The main right we have is the right to life. This is what all other rights are based off of. If we didn't have the right to life, we would not have any other rights. Going on, it's part of the same quote. He goes on to say, you can read it, but basically what he goes on to say is that because there is a supreme creator, or a god, if you will, we are endowed with certain rights. Because we have these rights, and because we are created by a higher being, nobody else has the right to our life because we do not belong to them. We belong to the creator, and so by that reasoning, we don't have the right to anybody else's life. And from this, we get the right to property. Property, Locke theorized, was an extension of one's life. So imagine an apple tree in the middle of a forest with an apple on it. According to Locke, this is all common property. Everybody has equal opportunity to walk up to that tree and pick the apple. Because you took the time to walk up to the tree and pick the apple, you put some of your life into that, making it your property. So, because you could have spent that time and energy doing something else, but you spent it picking this apple, it has some of your life in it. Thomas Paine also theorized on this in same way Locke did, but he kind of expands on it in his work called Agrarian Justice, where he says, "Men did not make the earth. It is the value of improvement only, and not the earth itself, that is individual property. Every proprietor owns to the community ground rent for the land which he holds." So basically he's saying earth is common property, but in order to hold property, we have to pay a sort of rent to receive consent from everybody to own that property, which is where we get kind of property taxes from. We also, because we have the right to life, have a right to liberty. Liberty is the best way to ensure property and prosperity exist. And Bastiat said, we have faculties in order to promote our liberty and our life and our property. Like we can run, jump, think, reason. So these are an extension of our lives. And in order to exercise this, we must have liberty. William Blackstone also said that by assaulting one of these rights, even one of these rights, you are assaulting every other right. So without the right to life, you don't have the right to property or liberty. Without the right to property, since it is an extension of your life, you don't have the right to life. And since liberty is an extension of your life, you don't have the right to that either. So what is the role of government in this? Well, Locke and also Rousseau theorized on this thing called the social contract, which basically says that rights don't come from the government. Government comes because we have rights. So because we have rights, they both theorize that in the state of nature, people created a government to protect those rights and liberties. so that they could observe them to the fullest. And so, by that, laws exist not to create rights, but to protect them. And it's also important to distinguish between a freedom and a right, because in a state of nature, I would have the freedom to kill you or to steal your property or to restrict your liberty, but I don't have the right or the liberty to. So to sum it all up, I've shown a little bit where the right to life, property, and liberty come from, and how they're intertwined, and how they work together, and without one, you can't have the rest. So thank you for listening to me speak about this, and hopefully I've given you some bit more knowledge on this topic and inspired you to learn a little bit more. It's important and it's very interesting. And obviously I didn't get into all of them. It's a lot more complicated. There's a lot more theories and a lot more rights to think about.
Did you get yourself?
I think so.